Hours after Israel launched one of its most aggressive airstrikes against strategic targets in Iran, the world wondered how Tehran would respond. The answer was not long in coming. That same night, Israel's missile defense system was pushed to its limits. Hundreds of missiles and drones were launched simultaneously from western Iran deep into Israel. Tel Aviv, a city that has always been considered a symbol of economic strength and stability, was one of the main targets. Not only was the number of missiles fired surprising, but so was the speed and scale of the coordination of the attack. Radars were running at full capacity, and within minutes, thousands of civilians were running for cover. What happened that night not only shocked Israel, but also sent a clear signal to the world. The conflict had entered a new phase. Tensions between Israel and Iran are nothing new, but the latest escalation began when Israel, with the tacit support of the United States and its allies, launched airstrikes against a number of sites in Iran. Nuclear facilities, military bases, and strategic communication centers were targeted. Iranian scientists and officials were reportedly among the victims. The reason, it was claimed, was Iran's acceleration of its nuclear weapons development, but there was no concrete evidence before the attack. Even the IAEA had not issued an official statement about serious violations by Iran. In other words, the accusations had no basis in fact. Many observers called Israel's actions a unilateral provocation, not a preventive measure. The attack was carried out without the consent of the international community. Iran called it an open aggression and said that retaliation is its right to defend its sovereignty. More than 150 ballistic missiles, including Shahab-3 and Sigil, were launched from Iran towards Israel, plus about 100 strike and reconnaissance drones. All of them were aimed at various strategic targets: Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, military bases in the Negev, as well as infrastructure in Ashdod and Beersheba. According to preliminary data from the scene, dozens of missiles broke through the Iron Dome defenses and hit several cities. In Tel Aviv, smoke rose from industrial areas, and multiple explosions were heard in the southern parts of the city. Sirens blared incessantly. People ran for bomb shelters. In the cities of Ashkelon and Netivot, buildings exploded, fires engulfed residential areas, and ambulances and rescue teams scurried through the streets. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, a series of explosions and bright flashes in the night sky demonstrated the intensity of the air battle. Although most of the shells were intercepted, the sheer volume and simultaneity of the attack overwhelmed the air defense system. The Israeli military itself admitted that this was one of the most complex and coordinated attacks it had ever experienced. In response to the attack, Israel deployed all of its best air defense systems, from Iron Dome and David's Sling to the Arrow 3. Israel's allies, the United States, Britain, and France, also pitched in, providing satellite reconnaissance, radar surveillance, and some interceptions at American military bases in the Middle East. The Israeli government claims that they managed to repel 80 to 85% of the missiles. This certainly demonstrates the effectiveness of their systems. However, the Iranian military claims otherwise. According to official statements from Tehran, dozens of ballistic missiles hit command posts, military infrastructure, and vital industrial facilities in Tel Aviv. They even published videos and satellite images that they say show real destruction in several strategic locations. Some independent analysts confirm the presence of significant destruction in several urban areas, but it is still not known for sure whether this was caused by direct missile hits or by shrapnel from shells destroyed in midair. One thing is clear: Israel's air defense system no longer looks flawless. The multi-layered and simultaneous attack has exposed its vulnerabilities, and the world now understands that even the most advanced technology can be disabled if subjected to massive and sudden pressure. The UN Security Council immediately convened an emergency meeting. The US called on Israel to refrain from excessive retaliation, but reiterated its support for Israel's right to self-defense. On the other hand, Russia and China called for an immediate end to the violence. Gulf states, such as Qatar and the UAE, also expressed concern about the potential for the conflict to spread to their territories. The US president held an emergency meeting with intelligence and military leaders. Meanwhile, humanitarian organizations began preparing for a possible new refugee crisis if the war were to expand. The attack proved one important thing: Iran now has long-range strike capabilities with dangerous accuracy and volume. They are capable of planning complex attack patterns, combining drones, missiles, and high-density salvos, enough to paralyze the enemy's air defenses. For Israel, despite intercepting most of the missiles, the psychological effect and strategic losses are still felt. And in the future, the pressure will come not only from Iran, but also from Hezbollah in the north or other pro-Iranian groups in Iraq and Syria. In other words, a high-tech asymmetric war has begun. Iran has shown that it will not stand aside if attacked, and now Israel must decide to strike back more powerfully or return to diplomacy. The world holds its breath, hoping that the next step will not be pressing the launch button of a missile, but opening the door to the negotiating room. But in the Middle East, as so often, the hope for peace depends too often on who fires the last shot. This video is provided for educational and informational purposes, based on facts and balanced analysis. We do not promote violence, hatred, or incitement to hatred against any group. This content complies with YouTube's policy on hate speech, violence, and provocative or misleading content. Link to YouTube's policy and relevant laws, YouTube Community Guidelines, Indonesian Information and Electronic Transactions Act, International Covenant on Human Rights.